can't see you again. So what if I can't be perfect for you? I'm drowning most nights, 'cause you're no longer mine. True hearts on my window, passing, chasing. If it's so easy, who you gon' love when I'm gone? What you gon' do with the distance? Who you gon' call when I'm lonely? Who you gon' love when I'm gone? What you gon' do with the
You're tuned in to a Grown Folks production
in the mix?
with the commish, Nate.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Press Pass Live, your weekly OMFL podcast show. The OMFL, the world's oldest and longest online CFM in the world. I am your founder, the commissioner, Nate. And let me welcome in one of my buddies. We don't know where the other one's at. He's in a little MIA right now. Mr. D. Wayne, our co-commish, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. Mr. Wayne, how you doing today, bud?
I'm good. I can't complain. You know, we're going both ways tonight, like I told you earlier, with a little pull you down drink on one side and a little lift you up drink on the other side. But we're going to make it.
Such a young man's game. I would have shat myself the moment I took one sip of both of those things. I think D. Wayne beat Maniac so bad in preseason. My guy's hiding from us. I don't know what happened there.
That wasn't the case at all. There he is right
there.
here.
There he is. There's Mr.
Years of
Maniac. He was just hiding from us a little bit. Let's welcome in our commissioner of the Deuce, the NCAA college dynasty here in Grown Folks, and your owner of a multi-time AFC champion. I almost said Denver. Why? I don't know. Buffalo Bills. Mr. Maniac, how you doing tonight, bud?
I'm doing good. I got a little sidetracked, but I'm here.
Sidetrack happens, man. It happens to all of us. I appreciate you making time. Well, boys, I shouldn't say boys, you're men. Men, we've got not a ton to talk about. Good to see you, Mr. Bronco Man and Logan. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Make sure to hit the like button. It helps us out a ton. Let's talk about winners of this past offseason. Big Hurt and I kind of talked about free agency and covered free agency a little bit, but I wanted to talk about the draft. We just got finished with the draft last night. It was a really good one, too. Like 2.5 hours. We were done. Guys were on it, making those picks, getting through it pretty quickly. Guys communicating well. Overall, we had a really good time. So, open conversation. Who won the entire offseason? Who won the draft? What do you guys think as we just wrapped up the business season and now we're setting everybody's teams to 53? What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Dwayne. I've got something else going on right now. Sorry.
I think you have to look at one team, and it's kind of scary to think about that they might have won the offseason. And I think that's Kobe and the Titans. Man, they hit a lot of – I can look at 3 picks right now out of the park in the draft, and a young wide receiver who's a speedster, a quarterback who everybody seemed to pass on, including myself, and then he replaced his 99 overall safety with a lot cheaper 82 overall, faster, if I'm not mistaken, safety. And I just think Kobe improved a lot. He got younger, he got cheaper, and I think he's only going to keep improving. And I think that might be a cheating way to look at it. And I just look at it now. He also got a 76 overall running back. I just think Kobe kind of hit this out of the park. I think he shed some really expensive stuff. Losing Graham's really going to hurt him. I know I'm saying that's the right name.
Mm-hmm.
But losing that, like I think he was the OMFL Bowl MVP. I think losing somebody like him's huge, man. He really flipped him and got really young and really cheap and really fast. And I think Kobe is a team that you have to be scared of, looking for a repeat after rebuilding in a way that even myself, I didn't think he could turn it that quick, but he did, man. He turned some old, expensive guys into a lot of young, cheap talent.
Yeah, looking at the Neon Sports draft grades, I'll go through the top 10 here. Vikings and Big Hurt with the number one, or tied for the number one grade at 78. Bill and his Giants tied with the number one grade at 78. The Bengals and Mr. Little Koch tied at number one with 78. And Pepper with the Chargers also having a solid draft, tied number one with 78. But number two, just barely behind them with a 77.2. Kobe and his Giants or Titans at 5. Panthers and Birdman, 77 was the number 6 ranked team. The Jets and Cincy, who I already felt like built a really great defense. He followed it up with a 76.75 for 7th. Colin and the Bears, a lot of high picks. Number 1 draft pick, 76 and 8th. 9th would be 75.8. That's Mr. Bronco Man and the Colts. And then 10th, this one sort of shocked me, but the Raiders, I know he was kind of complaining about his draft, but 75.67 to bring him 10th in the league. Those are your top 10 according to Neon Sports. I'll cover the top 5 draft picks that happened. Steve Sutton, cornerback, 81 overall, hidden dev. He goes to the Chicago Bears. Quentin Copeland, a wide receiver, hidden dev guy, 80 overall, goes to the Ravens. Will Milner, strong safety. This is the guy you were talking about, 82 overall. And I think, just scanning really quick, outside of Little Koch's pick, which was absolutely nuts, an 87 overall left guard, this guy was the number 1 player in the first round. He goes to Tennessee Titans as strong safety. Number 5, Tampa Bay Buccaneers got an 81 overall hidden dev wide receiver. And then number 5, the Cleveland Browns got a 78 overall left in hidden dev. I don't know if these are correct because it actually shows that all of the first rounders are hidden dev. So ignore the dev portion. I'm assuming that's wrong because the entire first round was not hidden dev. But still, you've got a 78 overall, 81, 82, 80, and 81 overall. A lot of teams doing really good for themselves and improving their teams. And when you're the top team, like the Tennessee Titans, and you can get younger, cheaper, and better, what else are you going to do?
No, you're exactly right. And just glancing at that meal, which I looked at the 30 pick, he had like an 82 or 83 overall lineman he drafted. So Kobe just kind of knocked this out. By the way, on the draft grades, if you had scrolled down and look who the last grade was the Cowboys. So, I know Maniac likes to give me hell about tanking in the fantasy thing, but I also tanked in the draft, apparently. So, but no, to go back to Kobe's guy, if I'm not mistaken, safety he got is also an X Factor player.
Yeah, you just said that in chat.
Or will be. And, yeah, he just hit that one. And you were talking about a different one. I was looking back at the Giants. I thought the Giants, I think he said he was number 2nd or tied for 2nd.
Yeah, tied for first.
Yeah, tied for first. The Giants, he got a running back, a stud running back, 21 years old. Jonathan Steele is going to be decent. And Bill really, the way he relies on his defense and, keeps low scoring games. If he could, he'd keep every game low scoring. A running back like him is something that he can build around and, kind of play his style along with all these other pieces thrown together. And you go to the Bengals, and we were just talking about that player he got. And is that not ridiculous to get
Nuts.
Which one is it? Is it
left guard or right guard? Let me pull him back up. I just had him. Nope.
Michael Colin. I think that's what it is. 87 overall already before he plays a real game. Michael Colin. That is a fantastic pick. I might need to hire Lokach for my scouting department because that's just crazy. But I think a lot of teams should have been happy with this draft. I think a lot of good players come out of it. I think you're going to see a lot more teams. I know some people still fall for the trap, but I think you're going to see a lot of teams look at these drafts, especially the first round or two, and see they can get some really good players on really cheap deals. And maybe you don't see. I think we have a Press Pass Live question about it later on, but I think you'll see these guys maybe keep those picks instead of trading them for expensive veterans. But we'll wait and see on that.
I agree with you. This could be the move, right, where if you can get the right value, you can turn your team around really quick and stay inexpensive. And the Titans already had a lot of cap. already were a pretty young team. It allows him to go spin big for those maybe one or two key missing pieces. And I'm interested to see his bids close. Did he do that? Did he go out and start to put in bids for a couple of guys that he, feels like could be a missing stop gear, gap 1 year guy that can come in here? Mr. Maniac, I don't know if you've made it back with us. Feel free to jump into this conversation whenever you are back and ready. You guys were not here with me as Big Hurt and I broke down the free agent deals. There were some big deals, especially in that round 3. There was some big money spent mainly around offensive linemen, linebacker, and tight end. Those guys really seem to get paid. And I think I'd even put a fourth in there. There were some veteran receivers that were able to make a pretty good living here this past offseason. Anything that recall catching your eye about this past offseason and free agency?
Well, I think you said a lot of the offensive line. And I've seen you put into the trade block chat, you're looking for a guy, offensive lineman. I've seen other people talking about looking for offensive lineman. I think there is especially on your, middle to upper tier offensive linemen, there's a shortage of them. And so guys like me, this might be one of the weakest offensive lines I've ever had, trying to build one up, and offensive linemen don't build very fast.
They do not. I
think guys are trying to draft, and they're also trying to plug and play some of these veterans to get by for a season or two. And I really think the jump to all Madden scared people. I think, and that's not a shot at one person, I think it scared even me, is you don't know how those defensive linemen are going to react, especially when you got a lower rated offensive lineman in there. Are they going to tear through them, like we've seen before, or is it going to kind of stay at the same pulse as it's been all Madden? And I think that guys really start with you look at tight end the same way.
Yep.
Some people look at just receiving tight end. I love a good hybrid tight end. I love a tight end that can run block, could do both. You don't see a lot of that anymore. And so I think guys, if you're like me, I'll usually sign a receiving tight end, and I try to get another tight end that leans more blocking. I think that's where you get that. And then you're talking about the receivers. Like I've seen Scary Terry, if I'm not mistaken, he went to the Jets.
Yep.
Terry McLaurin, I think he went to Jets. But he made it to the last day. And I just think a team like the Jets had plenty of money. And they're like, well, why not throw, he's aging. He's lost some attributes, but he's still an impactful player. And I think that's where you got a couple teams that had quite a bit of money, and they go into the last one. And Madden does a great job of the rollover feature now to kind of replicate the real NFL. I've took advantage of that. Roll the little cap over to carry some of these big name players. And I think when you're somebody like the Titans or the Jets or somebody like that with a lot of excess money, hey, you can go blow $30 million on 2 or 3, older players and still roll 30, 40 million over to the next offseason.
Yeah.
Hey, it's just a win-win. And I think you've seen a lot of that this offseason.
Yeah, I think you're looking at how they spent the money and stuff. I know it's like a lot of guys are going the route of doing the 1 year contracts. I think the shorter contracts are not giving out a lot of long-term contracts. I was kind of digging through some of that today as I was kind of looking through some of the positions and stuff from the off season and kind of get a feel of everybody's team and stuff. But just kind of, for instance, I think the Jets really had a good off season. I think they had a really good draft. I think he's going to have some of the best players I think come out of this draft that he's going to really utilize. And unfortunately, the Jets and the Patriots are both in my division, and they both had really good drafts. So it's gonna really improve their teams and make it even more tough in the AFC East. But again, talking about looking at their contracts, right now the Jets, he has several. There's probably 15, only 1 year remaining, and 1 year contracts that he got. So guys are still trying to really pinch those pennies and stuff, and that's where you really got to kind of lean on being able to stretch your cap, because like Dwayne was talking about, you got some of these high tier guys. Sauce Gardner for the Jets, he's going to be up for a contract, so he's got to be able to pay him. So a lot of these guys are bringing in. They're going to compete for a season, hopefully help him get into the playoffs and then try to rebuild off of that and stuff. I was really impressed with the draft too. I know I'm kind of just going all over the place, but
no, you're good.
I didn't get to be at the draft. I really hated not to be there and stuff, but we had church and stuff, so I wasn't able to be there. But I was impressed with my CPU because I did make do my favorites and stuff like that, and it did draft from my favorites, and it didn't draft all quarterbacks that I had supposedly 100%. I don't even have a guy on my scouting team that has 100% scouting on quarterbacks, but somehow I get 100% on quarterbacks, so I don't know what the deal is with that. But I had a couple of those guys in my favorites and stuff. If they slip through the cracks later on in the rounds, I might grab one for a backup. But I was impressed with the CPU. It didn't take 5 quarterbacks for me that I didn't need. So, and they drafted really well. I was impressed with a lot of guys' drafts. I think the Vikings, again, the Jets, Titans, all those really seemed like they had a solid draft. But I think just looking at the overall spectrum of this, like when guys are spending the money and stuff, and like Dwayne said, having the cap carry over, I think that's big. And again, you're seeing guys utilize that 1-year contract, just so they can get the guy in, compete with them, and then ship him back out to the street, because we all know these guys age. And so when you get up that 28, 29-year range, you're expecting those guys to fall off. So some of these guys are taking that into account and not giving them the big contract.
Mr. Bronco Man said, what a low bar to be impressed by, Maniac. Not auto-drafting 5 QBs. Good job, EA. Sure, granted, but it definitely has happened in the past. Give me your one team that you think won the offseason that we just finished wrapping up. For me, it's hard not to be impressed by what Tennessee has been able to do. It's also hard not to be impressed by a couple of these top teams that we've talked about here. But the team that I think has pretty consistently won off seasons that finally build up and translate to wins has to be the Chicago Bears. Again, I'm not diving into any of their picks, but a team that was ranked in the top 5 of the drafts, a team that spent well, moved players around, a team that we know with Colin has built in the future, in the past, a team that can make a serious run in the playoffs. I really like what Chicago is doing. And anytime the NFC North can just be that much better. When we get the floor of that North to raise up, which has not happened, honestly, a ton over the years in the North, that makes that division so much better and makes the NFC so much better. So I'm really impressed by the Chicago Bears and Colin. What about you guys? Who won the offseason for you?
I think that's a good pick there with the Bears, and I think as a whole, maybe I'm kind of like looking at this as a whole. I think the NFC North as a whole got better.
Good point.
I think you're looking at the Colin with the improvements that he made to his team. You're talking about his top 5 draft, but I mean he brought in some good savvy veterans, and then he just drafted really well. And then you got Tim. He's trying to get around the cap, and he's managed that pretty well. It looks like he's kind of kept the nucleus of that team together, and so I think those two teams are going to be a force. And then you see Priest. I know I've given him, and we've all given him some grief, about trading away all of his picks. He did seem like he kind of kept a little bit more picks this go around, or at least that's what it seemed like. But he drafted pretty decent, and then you got Big Hurt now taking over the Vikings. I think he had a solid draft as well.
Tied number 1.
Looking at Neon Sports, yeah, number 1. So anytime you do that, and then the few free agents that you picked up, like I said before in some of the shows, I think a good nucleus of mix between veterans and young guys is the key to keeping your team progressing, because if you get all old guys, eventually those guys are going to age out of the league, and then you're not going to have that youth to kind of build back behind them. And we've seen that in the past Maddens where after that third or fourth season in, that team just completely falls off, and either someone leaves the league and then they jump ship and move to a different team. We saw that with the Rams. I think that Rams were kind of a team that we saw like that happened, gave away all their draft picks in real life, and then the person coming in trying to build them up, they couldn't do it, and then they were trying to give away future draft picks to get veterans in, and then all of a sudden you got a team full of 33-year-old guys that really can't compete on the Madden side. So again, I think the mixture between youth and veterans are real important in this game, and I just think that the NFC North, I think we're going to hear some noise from the North boys.
Yeah, I think what you say about the North is kind of spot on. I just kind of looking at Neon, the Bears actually have the highest rated team in Madden right now.
It's crazy.
I don't know if that speaks volumes to Colin's perfection at tanking and getting super good players, or the Bears, though, they just have some pieces. He had a young quarterback he still hadn't had to pay yet, and it'll be interesting seeing that division. Like you said, the Bears, Lions, Packers, and Vikings, especially adding Big Hurt in the mix. I always tell Priest knows I love Priest. Priest sometimes not doing stuff is the best thing to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the Packers have did. He didn't spend. He picked up one veteran defensive end this offseason, but he kept everything in place, didn't get crazy with it. But the team I do have to talk about, and y'all mentioned him, was the Rams. And I think he wheeled and dealed. And like I said, I joked with him before, I think on this podcast, about being in that fantasy league with him. I think I woke up to 10 or 12 trade requests from him each day.
Yep.
And I can see it translates to Madden. If you look at his team, though, he's just got studs across the board. And then you look at his rookies he drafted with the picks that he didn't trade away. He got very solid players. He got a young quarterback for, if he moves on from Tua at some point. He picked a few guys like offensive linemen, linebackers that'll probably play day one. But he went out this offseason, and I think he got A.J. Terrell. He got George Pickens. He got some playmakers on that offensive side of the ball, and I'll be interested to see how he takes that next step. And the likes of D-Money and Meek and Joker in that division, because I think we've said it over and over again, that's just a gauntlet. But he's doing his best to put talent on the field, and I'm really anxious to see if this offseason, good or bad, because he traded for a lot of guys like Pickens, like Terrell, who are all fixing to be up for contracts, if I'm not mistaken. If he can pay them, if he can keep this team together, or is this a 1 or 2 season show?
I agree with you both. I think we could have also talked about the Colts. I think the Colts very impressive. I think 8th or 9th in the Neon Sports draft grades, and also signed some really key free agents. I think that could be a team that is poised for that Titans-esque turnaround. I think we could also, now Bengals a little inflated for drafting an 87 overall guy, your first pick, into the first round. But outside of that, the Jets had a really good draft. There's several teams that we could have really dug in. I want to look at the week 1 matchups before we open up the OMFL news and then the OMFL mailbag. I'm going to run through them. I want you to just tell me one game that you're looking forward to and why. Bears and Lions are going to face off in week 1. Browns and Buccaneers, Panthers and Falcons, Packers and Giants could be a really fun one. Dolphins and Chiefs, Ravens and Texans, Bengals and Titans. So right out of the gate for Little Koch. Jaguars and Steelers, Commanders and 49ers, Saints, Raiders, Vikings, Patriots, Cowboys, Seahawks. Boy, talk about game of the week.
Sign me up.
Eagles and Colts, Broncos, Chargers, Jets, Bills, Rams, Cardinals. Give me your one game, and then I got a key question for each of you. I mean, it's low-hanging fruit. I'll just take it right off the bat, make you guys pick somebody else. Cowboys, Seahawks. I mean, why not? Well, let me see it. This has been a key phrase and he can print it, he can record it, he can replay it for poster board material if he needs that kind of thing. I tend to believe that Meek does not need it, but Meek has become the regular season OMFL champion, but has yet to get it done in the playoffs. Cowboys ran up against a buzzsaw this past postseason and lost a really good close game in the playoffs, but has been pretty dominant, Dwayne. You've been dominant this entire cycle. These are going to be two fun teams. I kind of hate seeing that game right out of the chute, though, because
me and you both.
Both teams are sort of filling each other out. You're filling your team out. Like you don't get but like through 3/4 of that first game before you're like, okay, I think I got it. I think I know how this team's going to play. And it just sucks to see such a pivotal matchup. But I guess you could say that about every game in the OMFL. Who are you guys looking forward to watching here in week 1?
Maniac, I'll take that if you just to touch on that Cowboys-Seahawks game, it is interesting that you mentioned that game. Especially going to all Madden, as Meek is one of the least people I'd want to play going up to this next level. And the ability he has on the sticks is amazing. And it's like you said, him being a regular season one, that the playoffs is just so tight. Anybody that says it's not here is lying to themselves. It does. It's like that notch in your throat. Everything tenses up in the playoffs, and it's just. Yep. I think if Meek ever gets over that hump, I think he'll be done with it and be fine. I will say, just to kind of know I'm really taking too far, I think the biggest thing with the Seahawks is he wants a great quarterback. I didn't realize till now that Brad White is counting almost $72 million against the cap. And that's so hard to build a team. And it's amazing what he's done to pay a quarterback that much and compete the way he has. But I'll cut that short. This is why you had a 2.5 hour draft show last night. Me and Maniac weren't there. I want to say the Bears and Lions, and I know that's probably cheating. I probably just stole Maniac's, but that is just a great rivalry game. The first week, we were just talking about how the NFC North is just loaded. I mean, this used to be a laughingstock division, and I think we all can agree on that. We talked about, I think, all last cycle, the winner was like 7-9, 8-8, or was it 8-9 now? 9-8 every season. Like who wants to go to the playoffs, and nobody wanted to, but now these guys are just marching out. I think, like I said, 3 of the top 10 teams in the league rating wise are out of this division, and I think this is going to be a hell of a game. I think Colin takes the training wheels off of whatever he's did his first 2 seasons, and I think he's kind of going to be a little revenge tour. And I think Tim was on fire to end last season. Got in the playoffs. And I can't remember, he lost to Bill, if I'm not mistaken, right? Mm-hmm. I think so. And so he just ran into somebody who was just hotter than he was. I know Bill will hear me say how hot he was. But I just think he ran into a buzzsaw. I think if he probably ran into anybody else, his playoffs, would have kept going. But I think Tim's out to prove a point now that was just a bad speed bump. And I think the Lions and Bears will be a hell of a matchup.
You did. You stole my game, man. Man, there is a lot of good games though. I think in the first week, Denver, Kevin, that would be a good one to watch as well. But the one I want to touch on, I think, and it's going to be kind of it's going to be how Big Hurt adjusts to the new team and lost Sniper. I think this one is going to be kind of what would you say, like the undercard or whatever, and this is one that you're going to tune in and see 2 teams that had really good off seasons, really good drafts, and they've been pretty proven owners. Big Hurt's been a proven owner here. Lost Sniper, he's had his struggles, but he had his team rolling last season, and I think he's going to come into this season fired up with his new weapons, and still he's got that star quarterback. I think these 2 guys are going to face off, and it's going to be a really good matchup. I think with the quarterback there, Rusty Starr, facing off. I don't know if Big Hurt. I think he's still got the real life rookie quarterback from Michigan, and he's going to be starting with him. So there could be some adjustments made, for switching to a new quarterback. But I think. With the improvements that these 2 teams made, I think this is just going to be one of those games that's going to be kind of a knockdown, drag-out type of game that we're going to see. It's going to be a fun one to watch.
How do you guys feel about division games week 1 opening up the season? I think they personally suck. those games almost count as two
I don't like
games.
it.
If you didn't get to play preseason, like a lot of us, the timing doesn't allow you to play it. It's your first game, maybe in 10 days or whatever. Man, it's just new team, new flow, knocking off the rust against a divisional opponent. It kind of could suck to me.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
you're exactly right.
Yeah, I was gonna say yeah, and then let you say, but I think, like you said, when you're coming out of the gates and you don't know what's going on, you really kind of hadn't had an opportunity to play with like some of the young new toys that you just got in the draft. You know, you don't really know the full integral parts. So, you know, like, hey, you know, they work really well. This wide receiver works really well on a drag, or you know, he's always dropping the inside passes, but he's catching the deep passes or the outside passes. So, and those type of things like that can be kind of crazy. So, but yeah, when you face off the very first game, which I've got the Jets right off the bat, you know, he's like already talked about, he's improved his team and stuff, and my team. We're kind of about the same. Didn't have a whole lot of movement, you know, couple little pieces here and there, a couple little draft picks here and there. But his team has drastically improved a lot since last season. So there's going to be a filling out process for him, but also for me because I've played him the last 2 seasons with a certain type team that I've been kind of used to playing against now. Now he's going to have these new weapons and things that are going to go possibly a little bit different matchups for like say my number 2 cornerback may be matched up against a totally different wide receiver, which Scary Terry is going to be over here now. So that's going to be an interesting factor that is going to play out. But man, it stinks, man. You start out the first game against your division opponent.
Yeah, I think Maniac's right. I think both of y'all are right on that one. It does kind of suck to come into the season like this. Now, on the flip side of that, if you win that first game, you feel really good about yourself. But I am glad I got to play like Maniac in the preseason. I got to play another. I'll say this before I keep going with that is there's very few. This, like I said, this most like competitive I've ever seen in OMFL. I think like 1 to 32, you have great teams here. So when I say this about Maniac, that's not a shot at any other teams, but playing Maniac in the preseason, you know, playing a contender, somebody who's going to be an OMFL Bowl or making a run at the OMFL Bowl was really nice to play. And like Maniac said, get to try some things, get to see some players, you know, play. And as long as Maniac's guys learn to block on field goals, I think he'll win a lot of games.
Man, I was scratching my head on it. I was like, man, this dude, I got to figure out who's blocking on that side. I got to change up some stuff.
I just wanted my guys to do that in the regular season. Save some of those blocks for the regular season.
Mr. Dimper, why don't you take us away for the OMFL news to start off season 113? And then, fellas, we're going to open up that OMFL mailbag.
Welcome back to the OMFL news. Season 113 is just getting underway. Completed that draft last night. It's been a minute since I've been on Press Pass Live. We've gone through a little bit of some trades with some teams, some little shuffling around with some owners. We had some trades go through with players, lots of trades. Big shout out to the trade committee for getting all those processed. Like I said, we had a draft last night. That was awesome. Thanks to Big Hurt and Nate for hosting a great draft show. Thanks to all those guys that came on last night and gave us a little insight on their draft, on their offseason, and what they're expecting out of their team this coming up season. So that's pretty cool. What else? Speaking of the draft, some of you guys may already know this, but my guy LC grabbed a center in the first round, and he drafted a center last year in the first round. And once again, both centers that he took in both of these drafts were rated as the number 1 player overall.
It's crazy.
So I guess, you know, we may have a center whisperer here in the OMFL. We've heard about the quarterback whisperers out there. I guess now LC is going to be considered the center whisperer. Apparently he knows quite a bit about large men snapping a football. So you have any questions about that, I would reach out to LC. He seems like the guy you want to talk to. Anyway, moving on. Like I said, this is going to be a quick one. Just one segment today. Anyway, what else been going on in the OMFL? We got a new champ. New champion was crowned. Congratulations to Kobe and his Tennessee Titans on winning the OMFL Bowl. Big congratulations there. And also got to congratulate Bill, who was the runner-up and went through the absolute gauntlet over there in the NFC with D. Wayne, D. Money, and whoever else he had to go through to get there, plus the regular season. I mean, come on. Everybody knows the NFC is just absolutely loaded. All right. That is all from me. Back to Nate and Press Pass Live. I'll see you guys next week.
I love these guys, man, but the energy sometimes, I'm just like, what's going on over there? Like, I just want to know what's going on in their heads in that moment. Like, we had the interviews last night, and like Bronco Man came on and Kobe came on. You can see Kobe pushes himself a little bit. He brings, tries to bring a little spunk, but I'm just like, these fellas are putting me to sleep. I need a little bit more passion, a little bit more energy. Give me some tone. Give me some inflection here. Give me something to work with. These guys are like, yeah, I had a pretty good draft and think I'm going to make a run at the play. Okay. All right. Thanks. Next is another guy. Okay. Let's open up the OMFL mailbag, guys. We got a bunch of questions that came in here. Nice Hunger says, what do you think will be the early team to jump out to a surprise start? Who's your early surprise start team for season 113? I'm taking Chicago. I don't know why. I'm falling in love with Colin and the Bears right here on Press Pass Live in front of you, but give me Chicago. I think he's going to go on a quick early run here.
Falling in love with Chicago. I think it's going to be the Buccaneers, man. Even though the Bears, I think the Buccaneers are going to come roaring out, because if we do remember one thing about All Madden is Mr. Kev was absolutely a beast on All Madden.
I like that pick.
That's a fact. That is a fact. Kevin, which is so crazy. You're talking about Kevin and the amount of cap he's got rolled over, and man, he's got some money and a young team. Kevin could be a team we really watch out for these next couple seasons. My team, and I think you said it well when you talk about going to All Madden and stuff kicking in, I think it's going to be the Steelers. I think the Steelers put some pieces in place. I think that division, as hard as it is, and as loaded as it is with Denbrew, Nipples, and who's your fourth team in that division?
Little Koch, Denbrew, Nipples, and Penguins.
That's a murderer's row in itself, right there. I mean, that's on par with the
every
NFC
single
West.
one of them have been in a bowl.
Yes, and I think the Steelers, I think he's kind of traded water, and he's got these guys in place that he wanted. Did a lot of wheeling and dealing this offseason, and I think this could be the year the Steelers make a push. I'm not going to say he steals that division, but I think he's going to surprise people out front. I think some of these people that are here now don't remember the multiple-time champion Penguin, and I think he might try to remind some people of that early in this season.
I like that pick. That's it. I'd also put the Jets in there. Now, I wonder how much baby and life are going to allow him, but I'm telling you, that team, when I played him, I was like, this is the best defense I've faced all year. And I just got lucky. I feel like maybe he gave me the win because he wanted the draft pick. But either way, then it's another team. We've covered a lot of Randy's next question, or his first question, I should say. So just tell me any extra thoughts you may have. What teams do you think improved the most in the offseason and the draft? The two teams I just touched on, Colts, Steelers, and Jets, I think have to be up there in the conversation. Patriots, even though I don't know how much they improved, air quotes. Titans, I don't know how much they improved, air quotes, but I do think they got better. They had really solid drafts, really good, smart spending and free agency. Those are a couple of the teams that I know we sort of touched on, but any new thoughts there about offseason and draft teams that improved?
Nate, I guess I was looking at those questions. I guess he's got close contention but fell short. Or you want to throw that all in together? Because if so, I had one, and I think we've kind of touched on that division already in the NFC West. Joker and the Cardinals have overachieved in every fashion with that team. He's never had the most talent. He's been in a division with a ton of talent, and he always finds a way to win. And I was just talking about Meek paying his quarterback $71 million. Austin Henry is going to be your first $100 million a year person in the OMFL. And, bro, I just blew my mind when I seen that.
That's
and I look at
nuts,
his
bro.
team, and it's amazing what he has done with that team, paying that quarterback the way he does. You look at his team compared to all these other teams, and is devoid of a lot of talent. He's got some high end talent, but it's like that, mid 80s and down just really falls off. And it's just crazy to see what he does. And you start looking at his draft picks. He's got to hit his draft picks. When you pay your quarterback that much, you have that much money tied up in one person. And he's did a very good job. And it's not good or bad. I'm just anxious to see. And I just, like I said, hey, more power to Joker. That guy is a beast. But man, $100 million to one player, it just blows my mind.
That's hard to stand pat. Like you're talking about, you paying so much for the quarterback. The rest of your team is relying on your draft. Because I know sometimes I get like a little antsy and I feel like, I got to go make a trade and at least get one guy, and I'll trade usually either way my second round pick or my third round pick or my first round pick, one of those three. And then I'm always like, I probably should have kept it. But I usually try to trade for like a younger player, if all possible. But you're talking about spending $100 million on the quarterback. You got your draft picks, and you really can't afford to trade any of those draft picks away. Really, I mean, truly, honestly, you got to be able to hit on those. And that's a lot of pressure. So, I mean, kudos. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because I wasn't even thinking about that. But, I mean, kudos to Joker, man, because that's staying pat to what you know that you got to do to make your team better and sticking with it. And so far, I mean, he's done a good job. I mean, he's not been one of those guys that are getting blowed out, week in, week out. He's always in games. He's winning games. He's losing them by 3, losing them by 1. So, I mean, that's impressive.
Speaking of what teams were close in contention, but maybe didn't do quite a great job this past offseason, I think a couple of these teams had really good drafts, Raiders and Chargers. I'm going to lump, what is that? The AFC East? What is that? West, AFC West. I'm going to lump all of you together. You're becoming the new NFC North, the team of like, okay, who wants to win this division? Why is the floor of this division so low and the ceiling of this division so low? These are 4 very good players, 4 guys that when any of the 4 are engaged, they're a playoff team, but we rarely see all 4 engaged at the exact same time. I get it. Life happens. Things happen, blah, 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 blah. But I'm looking at you guys. No one wanted to win your division last year. We basically gave a team a playoff seed, even though I think half of you didn't even play your games to wrap up the season with Christmas break being there. So I'm looking at that whole division. Step up. Chargers, Raiders, you had an amazing draft. Follow it up. Chiefs, where are you? My guy, Shocks that's one of the best dudes in this entire league. Just an amazing human being. But let's see you step up and take it, brother. Let's see you own this division. Broncos went on a run, then the holidays maybe stole something from you. But I want to see one of these teams actually take the reins. And I'd love to see all of these teams step up and make a really competitive division. Anything else about team that improved the most or maybe fell short before we move on to the next one?
I'm all good, Nate.
Yeah, I was just going to kind of make a smart comment about the AFC West. At least they're all consistent together.
They are consistent together. That is absolutely true. Cincyberg says, why do teams in I think it means in the top 10 of draft trade their picks for high-end players in expiring contracts of 1 or 2 years? So it's basically like teams that aren't having great seasons Why are they trading these top 10 draft picks for older expiring contract players? Since I think I put a finger, I throw a dart, pick a straw, who knows? I would tend to say it is my team sucked. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make this pick right. The picks make me nervous. It's an unknown. Let me go get a known commodity, even if it means I got to pay them. A lot of times those teams also have a lot of cap space. I think for me, watching what D-Money did this past offseason, watching what the Colts, the Titans, a couple of these teams did was really smart, but also like sucked a little bit. And look, I had to tell the trade committee, the reason we have a committee isn't just because I need 5 people to read numbers and make sure the numbers are close. Like I could just get a robot to do that. It is to protect the league and protect owners from themselves. And let's just call a spade a spade. What D-Money did was draft really, really good. Guy's a great drafter. And then he flips those really well-drafted players for high-end picks, multiple of them. I know for sure a couple of his guys were going for multiple high-end, quote-unquote, day one picks, first, second, third round. And now he's gobbling up more assets that he can then flip, and he just continues to keep the train rolling while having cheap contracts because he's keeping those players that are making impacts for him, flipping those players for high draft picks. And the only way he can do that is if we give him trade partners. And so I would strongly encourage, I don't know why I'm turning this into a Nate's rant here, but strongly encourage those teams in the top 10, man, be mindful of how you're letting these picks go, who you're letting these picks go to, and ask yourself, wait a second, why would a team that has won championships here and in the playoffs offering me these players for multiple of my draft picks? You should just pause and ask yourself that question.
I think that's well said. I think what you said about some of these teams, though, even taking away the D-Money factor, and I hate to single him out because he's not the only one.
You're right.
Does it to more perfection than most do. But you have struggling teams, like you said. There's a lot of pressure if you have a top 5 pick or top 10 pick, and I've seen you, Nate, do that. I think not this season, but maybe last season. There's just so much pressure on that top pick that you've got to get it right. You got to get it right. You got to get it right. And if you don't get it right, it's like, damn, I just went 2-15 to screw that up.
Yep.
And I think it's really easy to be like, look at some of these guys. Look at, I'll just use D-Money's example. I'm looking through his roster right now. He's got a couple cornerbacks there, 91, 90 overall, 2 years left in their deal or a year left. And you're like, oh my God, I can have a known commodity. I know that guy will be a beast for the rest of the cycle. Yes, I might have to pay him in 2 seasons, but I know what I'm getting, and I'm not taking a chance.
Yep.
And I would tell more people to and I was one. I used to trade my first round pick away every year. I've tried to stick with it, to keep it. It's paid off for me better to keep my pick than it was to trade it away for short-term value or the short-term satisfaction of getting a high-end guy. There are scenarios where I would do it. Hey, if you can get a mid-80s, low-90 guy, and for some reason this team doesn't like him and he's got 3 years left on his deal, or even if he's re-signed, which I know the cap penalty thing is funny, if he's re-signed at a reasonable deal and you can get him on a reasonable contract, I can't knock that. But I would, from experience, I wouldn't trade unless you're a piece or two away. I wouldn't trade a first-round pick for a rental. I just have a hard time justifying that one long-term. But I do see where guys come from that feel like I said, there's just a ton of pressure picking that high that I have to get it right. I have to get it right. And then when you don't, I can only imagine the deflation that you feel.
Yeah, that can be a lot of pressure. I mean, if like you said, you have to take like an inward look. Inventory. Okay, I've been playing this Madden for 2 seasons, and each season I've finished, in the bottom half, and I'm picking top 5. But D-Money's always coming knocking on my door, wanting my pick, and he offers me, whatever. I think a lot of guys, and sometimes I may even struggle with that, but you're in the position, you have that pick, so you get what you want. If you're going to trade it away, you get what you want, and it has to be like a top tier guy. So, and don't be like, well, because I know like some of these guys, and I've dealt with D-Money before, and nothing against him, because I mean you got to try to make the best deal you can, but he'll be like, well, I'll throw this guy in if then you'll throw this pick in, or so, and then next thing you know, you got like a 3-player trade, and then you're like, well, I'm not really getting enough value now.
He upsells you,
and then you're getting stuck with a lot of cap, and so then the next offseason, well, you're like, oh, okay, I can sign these guys. Well, then all of a sudden, like, my cap is blown, and I don't have a draft pick, and then there goes the rabbit hole, and your team is you're playing in the toilet bowl, constantly. Then after that, so, again, like I said, like if you see something like you're talking about, like some of those cornerbacks or whatever, if you see something, you can go and initiate, like say, hey, I've got a pick here. I'm more likely going to be picking probably within the 15 to 20 range, or maybe top 10 or whatever. But this guy is, 23 years old, maybe, or 24 years old. He's a superstar, whatever. And, if you're getting beat constantly in the passing game, well, and the rest of your team around you is really solid, that probably is a piece that you need to start turning things around. Make that move. But if you got 60 and 70 overall guys on your defensive line, you got 71 overall linebackers, and you're going and taking your number 1 draft pick and you're giving it for a cornerback, probably more than likely you probably need to keep that pick and go ahead and invest in some other things. You keep that money that you would be paying for that guy that's going to get aged down the road, and try to build and look at the long forecast of your team and try to build within that two years, and say, okay, with 2 years from now, I'm going to take these 2 draft picks. I'm going to keep. I'm going to get top round, try to get me top round draft picks. At least those picks focus on like your scouting. Scout your top, if you're going to be top 20, take 20 guys and scout them tremendously. Look at every attribute, look at every combine number, whatever, and just make your list. Like, okay, I'm taking this guy, I'm taking that guy. If they're there, this is the last resort guy here, and kind of go off of that. But again, I think guys will, like I said, the money comes knocking, and then next thing you know, it's like, well, let's make a deal. When you hear the "let's make a deal" music playing, it's time to close the door and say, see you next year.
Yeah, he will upsell you in a half second. I think the only other thing that bothered me, I feel like there's a group of buddies here, that sort of, you could see some, what I would think would be a little shady stuff going on, trading from one guy to another guy and just being a pass in between. It felt a little weird. I wish that kind of stuff didn't happen. Shocks fan says, what challenges does All Madden bring to gameplay? What type of adjustments will owners need to make? I have not played a lot of All Madden except for early in the cycle. I don't think it's going to be a massive change as we've seen in past cycles. I think this year it's more closely related to what you would hope All Madden would be, and that is just smarter defensive players with a little bit more pressure. That's what I'm hoping that we'll see, and I think the adjustment will be you will not be able to sit in the pocket all day. I hope we stop having 60, 70 touchdown quarterbacks. We probably will see an increase in interceptions, but that's to come because we're not all NFL quarterbacks, and I know I make tons of dumb, like, why did you throw that ball decisions. But outside of that, I think it's going to play pretty close to what we've been having, just hopefully with smarter defensive plays. What do you guys think? You got to play your preseason game. I know you can't pull almost anything from that, but what do you think? Any adjustments for All Madden?
Yeah, Maniac. If I'll go first, it didn't feel crazy, but I think Maniac would agree with me that it is kind of catch seeing this. Your starters play for a quarter, and then you get a mixed bag of what's left over in your roster for the last 3 quarters, and so it's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah,
you do get some weird matchups, and I know I can speak for him or speak for me, but I'm sure Maniac has the same thing. At certain times, your subs are weird, and you get a star player in versus a weak player, but I didn't feel in that first quarter. The drastic difference wasn't there that I kind of was expecting. I was expecting to see some of those star players like just, I mean, I can say warp, but you know what I'm talking about? Like those guys just see that all Madden we're used to where guys were just making crazy plays. I didn't see that. And so that gives me hope that maybe we'll just tighten up a little bit. And I do think after this first week, we'll get to see guys in the whole game and get a better feel for it. But like I said, I imagine Maniac will touch on it. But just like that first quarter, I will say it was a positive that guys just didn't seem like they were superhuman.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that it seemed like, and maybe this will be good in the long run, because I mean, like I was kind of discussing with Dwayne after the game. I was like, well, I felt like some of the guys weren't reacting real well, but then after I said that and went on about my business and come back and sat down, I was like, you know what, like, all those guys were like 70 overall, so maybe they shouldn't have been like making big plays anyway, So, but I think one of the big things though is like you may see a difference in the talent level between like a 95 overall player and a 70 overall player, whereas like with all pro. The gap between those is less, and I don't know. That's probably what we want to see, really, truly, honestly, because you don't want guys like, say, like a guy building a team with a bunch of like young guys with a 70 overall, stuff, and dominating everything. So it really did seem like in that game that the overalls were factoring in that and stuff. I do think also that guys have to understand too, like, I think like your processing of the plays and stuff have to be a little bit faster, because the players do move just a little bit quicker. Things are happening just a little bit faster. I think like your running lanes and stuff, I think from what I was seeing even early on in the game and later on in the game, like they kind of collapse pretty quickly. So you gotta make your decision. Like, okay, I feel like the hole's going to open up here, and watch your blocking. And if you get that little crease, you're going to have to take it. You're not going to be mulling around back there in the backfield, because if you do, I think you're gonna get stuffed. And so, but overall, the first experience with it and stuff, like I said, at first I was like. Again, I messaged him and said, hey, like I felt like the DBs weren't really reacting. And like I said, then I sat back down. I was like, all my DBs playing in the second half are like 77 overall and not really good at play rec and stuff. I was like, that might have been a factor. So anyway, so I think there will be an adjustment point, especially you got guys that just drop back and fling the ball everywhere. I mean, you're probably gonna see an uptick in picks, more than what it was. You're just gonna have to adjust. I mean, everybody's just gonna have an adjust period and stuff. But I do think it's gonna play a factor. Like I said, now I could be totally wrong, but the Buccaneers is just one prime example that I can relate to, playing in the South, playing him on All Madden versus All Pro. He was just a different beast, because I know he had his star quarterback and stuff, but if he's got any decent wide receivers and stuff, they're going to go get the ball when he gets it to them and stuff. And I think guys are just going to have to be patient and try to give it their best shot and practice a little bit, and practice mode, kind of get used to the speed. But overall, I mean, I really didn't have any major complaints about it. So. Except for my 2 blocked field goals.
Yeah. Well, Dwayne almost gave up a kickoff touchdown. I watched that one too, and I was like, dang, Maniac was right there. We got 4 questions left. We're an hour deep. I still got to do all my off-season stuff. Let's see if we can't run through some of these. Bird says, I said this was going to be a short 30-minute show. Joke's on me. That's what I get for saying that. Bird says, what non-dev traits do you feel make a difference in the game? That is hard to say. I'll give mine that pops at the top of my head, and that's the Oh crap! What is it exactly called? High motor. I think that one does make a difference with consistency. Like, does your player play consistently the way you expect him to play? I find that one does make a difference. What about you guys? Any non-dev traits that you feel like make a really important difference?
I'll stab in here right quick. The play ball for especially like your DBs, and it also for your linebackers and stuff. I think it helps them react to the ball when it comes in their area. If it's on that passive or whatever and stuff, they have the tendency to more like kind of like have that like I'm gonna watch it go by animation. Whereas like when they are aggressive on that and stuff, they'll either swat or try to make a play on it and stuff. So to me, I think that's one of the big ones. I could name a bunch of other ones and stuff, but you know.
Well, we'll clump in his next question too, so we knock out 2 and 1. He does say give him one for each position. Bird, no way, no how. We'll be here till next week, so we're not going to give every position's most important, but not only which ones do you feel important, but what positions. I'll name 2 really, really fast on top of my high motor, just general across the board. I'm going to take the low-hanging fruit ones from you guys. The quarterback sense pressure trait, like I think that one's crazy important, how your quarterback can still deliver a good pass with pressure in his face. And I would also put in this one I got from Dwayne, and that is hit power or hit stick or whatever that one's called. I forget exactly what it's called. Say it again.
Big hitter.
Big hitter. That's it. I think any defensive player, that's crazy important, but especially linebackers, DBs, to get those knockout pass animations whenever you're really close. What about, so clumping those 2 together, what non-dev traits do you think are really important? And then what positions would you tie those to?
Go ahead, Maniac. I'll let you finish yours.
Yeah, I think again, like the play ball, I think is important. The group that I said, but I think then also I don't really know. I've seen a big difference with the defensive line with the swim move or the spin move. I don't really see my guys like making all kinds of those moves like in the game. So I even between, because I've got one guy that's got both, and then I've got one guy that's just got the swim move, and I think I've seen him do a spin move more than I've seen the other guy that's got the spin move thing. So to me, I don't know. I don't think those really matter, to be honest.
Well, I had to go with the big hitter. He knew he took mine when he said it, because I love the big hitter trait. I like you said, knocking the ball out, meeting guys in the hole. I mean, even in Maniac, I think it was our championship game, or during the regular season where Cook. You get that big hitter trait with Overshown. He just knocks the ball loose, and that's just a game-changing play. The one that really I hadn't really paid attention to until last season when CeeDee Lamb's stupid like feed me the ball thing comes in, but it's the decision maker. If I'm not mistaken, that plays a part into those scenarios they get. And I think that's why it seems like he always asks for something really crazy, or he wants the 100 catches and 20 carries, or if you say something bad about him on those little interviews, that his morale drops like 30 points. And I think that's a very slept on one this cycle. I haven't seen many people say anything about it, and I'm not sure how y'all scenarios have worked out, but my scenarios have not worked out very well. My wife sat here with me earlier, and we watched the scenarios to make sure I didn't screw up another offseason.
I'm starting to pick up on what Raj puts down. Don't click those things. Just leave them alone. They are not worth it. Because I got that same one you did. And I was like, bro, if I passed you every play, you're not getting 100 catches and 20 carries. No, it's not going to. Okay, you just gave me something that's never going to work. I wish they wouldn't put those in online CFMs. The only other one I maybe would talk about is, and I'm not going to get it right, but the inbounds catch for receivers where they keep their toes in bounds or whatever. I think that one also could be a really important one. Kobe says, starting the season is always a great time. Which of the top 10 picks will make the biggest impact on their teams? I'll run through them fast. I did it earlier. Steve Sutton, cornerback to Chicago. Quentin Copeland, wide receiver to Baltimore. Will Milner, strong safety to Tennessee. DeAndre Huff, wide receiver to Tampa Bay. Carl Berry, left end to Cleveland Browns. Britton Staley, a cornerback, over to the New York Jets. Jason Anthony, a right end, over to the Washington Commanders. Pat Duke, a cornerback, over to Houston Texans. Enrique, why won't they come out? Enrique Pickens, a defensive tackle to the Chargers. And then finally, Matt Hardy, a strong safety to the Denver Broncos. I thought that guy was still a wrestler, but evidently he's also a football player. Any of those top 10, which one do you think brings the biggest impact to their team? And why is it DeAndre Huff, wide receiver to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Yeah, no, I think I was just fixing to say, if all three of us don't pick the same one here, I think you have two offensive guys here in Copeland and Huff.
Yeah.
Both Nipples has never shown me as the type to feed a guy, unless he's a cornerback on the other side that he can use her. Huff is going to be a 1,500-yard receiver this season. Somehow or some way, Kevin's going to get him the ball. And if I had to go with the second one, honestly, I kind of think it's going to be Sutton. I know that might be a cop-out with the Bears, but I think the Bears are going to be good, and I think the Bears are going to be up on teams, and I think that people are going to throw the ball, and I think all Madden combined with Sutton, I think Sutton could have 8 to 10 interceptions as a rookie.
Yeah, I'm gonna cop out and go with the Bears also. When you're in the division with a Priest that likes to chuck the ball around, it's going to give you every opportunity in the world to get as many interceptions as possible. Now, Priest, that's a challenge to you to not go throw 60 interceptions this season. So, from things past, that would vote well for the Bears cornerback. Right. I think also looking at the division, I think we're the Titans. You've got a division, I think the guys have kind of shown like they like to pass the ball. And so I think that also gives him an opportunity to be a top impact guy from this draft and stuff. But again, you can't go wrong with Cabot and a wide receiver that's got some speed, because he is looking for that guy at least 10 to 12 to 15 times in that game. So he's going to give him every opportunity to make big plays for him. He
didn't have great speed, though. So lucky for me, he's not going to be like a 97 overall burner or whatever. I would take both the receivers early in the season. I just think offense puts up the quickest, sexy stats. But if I had to pick a defensive player, Britton Staley for the New York Jets to go with that defense also really caught my eye. All right, last one. Logan, I'm going to save your question because we're going to do that the entire next show, which may be a week long by the time we get through it. But he said your prediction for each division champion. We'll do that on the next show. Get a couple advances in. Let us, see what teams are there, and then we'll all three of us hopefully be able to make our call. Then again, D-Wayne might be on one of those like 3-week, never get to get a break on call days, and he might not be able to join us, but we'll get his predictions one way or the other. D-Wayne, your question: who is one import that you remember from years past that didn't make the OMFL Hall of Fame but was an impactful player here, your team, or on another? I think that's a really great question, and it's why we started the Hall of Fame, was because we get these really impactful players that come in for a cycle or two now that we have imports, and you forget about them. And I, again, will always, no one else here will remember this because none of you were here, but back in the day, OMFL PC days, probably 2004, 5, somewhere in there, we had a guy named Bry that was here. He was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers owner. He lives on an island right outside of Florida. It's like part of Florida, I think. I forget the name of it now. I could pick it out on a map. He was a web designer. And so the league back in those days, right, we were talking introduction of the web, 2000, 2001, that early years of the web was very web driven. And so every team had their own web page. We had a web designer that created an OMFL site. And I had a middle linebacker. I'm giving the history of why the OMFL Hall of Fame was created, but I had a linebacker that dominated the league. And this is back when player cutouts and player photos. Like that was like, oh my God, how the hell did you ever do that? Like Photoshop was a thing that only like high elite web designers knew how to do. Well, this guy knew how to do all of that. And he cut my middle linebacker out and had a collage on the opening page of the website. And it was just awesome. And I just remember that guy, that player. I remember that website, and I was like, man, we got to figure out a way to hold on to these amazing players that come through the OMFL in a way that we can, now that we have the technology with Photoshop and all these other things where amateurs like me can figure out a way to put something together. So that's how we got where we have an OMFL Hall of Fame. And I tend to think, and this is a long way as I told everybody to hurry up, but I want to give you guys a chance to think, but I think back to Tim's players, and I think all of my players, if I could jog my old memory, would go back to why Tim didn't do it, is they just forget to put guys up for nomination. And I think we have had some really good players that even I would be like, oh man, I forgot about that guy that just didn't get put up for nomination. And I know Tim had a quarterback that was drafted by Trey that put up some outstanding numbers. It was a sharp period of time, so I think Tim didn't feel like he would make it. But that quarterback and that middle linebacker for that team, Trey was just hitting home run after home run after home run in those drafts. That guy just immediately floats to mind because it was pretty recent. But I think it always comes down to either an owner who's not engaged and just doesn't do the work to nominate a player, or a player just wasn't here enough seasons, and we already have a Hall of Fame, and so we have something to sort of compare it to, and the numbers just don't add up because the new player just was only here for 3 seasons or whatever. What about you guys?
I'm trying to rack my brain because there's been so many players that has come across the OMFL stage that have been really good players. I mean, and I guess I got to go with like something from my team that I've played with. I guess it's more familiar. I'm trying to think of anybody that I played against that had a superstar, and I can't really think of anything right now. But I had a guy that I drafted. That's when I was the Panthers, and I had the Hall of Fame player McCoy, the quarterback.
Yep.
But I had this running back that I called. He was the mini Marion Barber, and he was built. I mean, he was built exactly like the way Marion Barber was for the Dallas Cowboys, and he ran exactly like him too in the game. And I think the season that I went to the OMFL Bowl with that team, I had Christian McCaffrey and him, and McCaffrey got hurt, but that guy's name was Sharp, and he was like 6 foot, like 230 pounds, and he just like bulldozed through and had really great speed. Him and another guy, a tight end, I think Big Hurt drafted him, that was on that team before I took over and stuff. Both those guys were like super good and had a lot of stats and were always like either open or scoring touchdowns or something for that team.
Yeah, my thought process earlier was kind of like the OMFL history moment. A lot of these guys here now are, really new, and they haven't been, like I said, I think I was actually mentioning, because the whole reason this revolved around it is that we just had the draft, and we're talking about these super fast receivers and cornerbacks, and I was actually talking to Glaze about one of his players he drafted, and it made me think that, like I said, I think it's almost been here 10 years, and I think you just remembered who I was talking about. It was Gilbert Nixon, and who he drafted, and I actually had to go back on Nate's page, which is really nice, in Madden 19. He was a 6'6", 233-pound receiver who, at that time, if you remember, 94 speed was fast. And now everybody seems to come in 92, 93, 94 speed. But he was like 94 speed, like 98 jump, 99 catching traffic, and he was just a freak. And at that time, that was the Paxton Lynch. And I'm trying to think of the running back that the Broncos had at that time. For some reason, I thought his last name was Anderson. But he had some studs on that team, and he got that. And that, if I'm not mistaken, around that time is when he made his run on the AFC West and actually made an OMFL Bowl, which got me looking back on Nate's page of looking at all those imports. And I looked back at one of mine. which was Jacoby Lynn, which was a safety I drafted when I was still the Falcons, and he made it 3 Maddens to the Colts. He actually went from a safety to a cornerback at 86 speed, which would not fly in today's OMFL. But he's most infamously known for trying to hit stick one of D-Money's players in an OMFL Bowl and knocking him out of bounds. And it gave D-Money the time to kick a field goal and beat me. And so for such a great career that he had, going from a strong safety to a cornerback, and it was just real crazy. It was almost a throwback moment going back on that page. And if any of y'all get time to go back, you have to go back a little ways. But going back at some of those, Madden 17, 18, 19, 20, import players was pretty neat.
I think a fun question. First, Kobe said Devin Royals. I remember him. I think receiver, if I remember. He said, I forgot to put him up, which sucked, but I had him for 3 cycles. I remember that guy was a terror to have to deal with. I think a fun question would be, of the current OMFL Hall of Fame list, who is the single most dominant player? I think that would be a fun question to unpack.
Oh, yeah.
I'll even go old school of, this is way before, again, most of you. Now, some of you might have been around, but this had to be 2008, 9, 10, somewhere in there, when Madden had that one cycle where the drafts were predetermined. So there was a set of 7 or 8 or 10 drafts. And so you knew that if you seen one name, which draft it was. And I drafted, I had the number 1 pick that year. And again, Maniac's laughing because he was around in those days and part of the team that like tested those things, I would assume, back in those days. But I got Jack English, so I had the number 1 pick, and Jack English was 99, everything across the board, a John Elway clone. And that dude, like, I've got some old videos. If you went to the oldest videos in our YouTube channel, some way, somehow, I found some like Justin.tv highlight clips that I don't even remember when I made these. The resolution's terrible, but that team got to the NFC Championship. I remember, because those of you who remember this name, Wynn, who is my cousin, he's a family member. I was on vacation during the playoffs at his mom's house because she's my aunt, my nanny, and I played in Wynn's room. That's not his real name, so I feel like I can use it. I played that championship in his room on his PlayStation, on his TV with Jack English and these like superstar wide receivers. And I think I lost to Brady. If those of you remember Brady back in those days, I lost to Brady, who was Tampa Bay back then, I want to say, by like 10 points or 7 points or whatever. It was just a heartbreaking loss. But anyway, that's going really old school. Jack English would have 100% been a Hall of Famer had we had the Hall of Fame back in those days. Fellas, we're going to go ahead and land the plane right there. A little over an hour and 15 minutes. Great show. We are here. I need to go get set to 53, and it's way past my bedtime because I got to get up and go commute to the office tomorrow. I hate Tuesdays. Ooh. I wish I could just keep working from home, but now I got to go commute and work from the office, which means I got to get up earlier than normal, which means I can't stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning. But let's put a bow in the show. Give me one final thought, D-Wayne.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see these teams show off what they did this offseason. I'm excited to see how this all Madden kind of twist and change things up for everybody. And man, I'm just ready to get back to playing some games. That 10 days or so was plenty of time off. Now I need to fix this itch I got.
I absolutely agree. Maniac, one final thought. Close us out.
Yeah, man, I got so many thoughts, but I'll try to keep it short and sweet. No, really good show. Really enjoy chatting this up. Maybe we need to do like some kind of special thing, like where we go back and highlight an old Hall of Fame player or something every once in a while. That'd be kind of neat. But kind of reminiscing back the old players and stuff. It kind of brings a smile to my face. So, but I'm ready to get back to playing. Also, I got to revenge my game, that Titans game, man. I played poorly, so it's time to get back into the saddle and go after it again. So
yeah, one final thought is I'm ready to get going again. A little disappointed about some of the stuff that came out during the playoffs, which I talked about on the draft show last night. good, bad, or indifferent, fellas, and you both have been here with me for, a long time. I've known both of you longer than 99.9% of people in my life. My wife, my best friend, and my parents, and about probably the only people I've known less or longer than I've known both of you. You can't do nothing in this league and it not be seen. You might get away with it for a little bit, but you ain't getting away with it long. There's just too many, for good reason, people that go looking and watch things and pick up on things. Sometimes that can get sort of a little extreme to the other end where it's like, okay, we got to sort of choose what to ignore here. But sometimes, some things are pointed out. So if you feel like you might be involved in some things that would look frowned upon in this league, you probably are, and you probably should just not do them. And that was sort of disappointing. So I said my piece about all those things. Let's keep things on the up and up. And let's just, like I said, there's no way, no how that our FPR will ever catch every glitch or weird thing that you could do to get some kind of advantage here. And that sort of is always a punch in the gut to me. Every offseason, I realize who's too competitive or uber competitive. Like, who am I to say who's too competitive, but who are uber competitive and allow themselves to do whatever it takes to sort of get any type of advantage. And that just sucks. It's like, why can't we just play ball? None of us are getting paid to do this. Like, let's just play ball. And so anyway, that's enough negative Nancy for me. I'm excited. Season 1 will be here tomorrow, and I'll hate the game by next Thursday because I'll be 0-3 and be like, why do I suck again? But I'm excited and ready to get going. Guys, thank you for making time for me. Thanks for giving me a little extra time. Monday nights can be tough with church, and they can run long. Let's get to 53. I think we're close. I think we're only like 1 to 3 teams away, so we might get an early advance and get us off into the season. And I see games are already scheduled. So for Maniac and for D. Wayne, for all the board here in the OMFL, appreciate you guys. Thank you for hanging out with me. Take care of yourselves. Take care of those around you. Know that you matter and you are loved. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Later, guys.
Smash that like and subscribe.